are you? Welcome to my channel. I'm Ashley. I promised you last week today we would be doing a top 10 for 2023. So that's what we'll be doing. I read a total of 96 books in 2023, and these are the ones that stood out to me. I don't base these off of star ratings. I base these off of the ones that are the most memorable. The ones that I'm still talking about, recommending to friends, the ones that I'm still, going on and on like, hey, you have to read this book. They're in no particular order except for I do have a top 3. So let's get right into it. Autumn Crow High, Fresh Hell by Cameron Chaney. School is back in session at Autumn Crow High. Will the class of 1994 survive long enough to graduate, or will the cursed town of Autumn Crow devour them all? Bailey Hagan is plagued by nightmares, blood-soaked visions of a boy seemingly from another time. He's so handsome, so dark, so deadly. When Bailey returns to school in the fall, she is horrified to learn that the boy from her dreams is real and is attending Autumn Crow High. Are Bailey's dreams a warning, some kind of premonition? Or has the boy truly escaped her nightmares? Only time and murder will tell. So if you were a fan of Fear Street and Christopher Pike books, you will love Autumn Crow High. It's full of 90s nostalgia. Also, I love the female friendship that is in here between Bailey and Melody. It's definitely dark and there's definitely some gore. It is so good. I won't give anything away, but just really good. Highly recommend, obviously, because it's on my top 10. But yeah, really good, really nostalgic. Autumn Crow High, Fresh Hell. Cyrus Stone, Hunter of Evil by Adam Cagley. I need to get an official copy. This is an advanced reader's copy. Cyrus Stone, a fearsome but childish monster hunter, must save his unfortunate hometown from a doomsday preacher with suspicious motives and an even more suspicious origin in this genre-bending horror comedy inspired by Army of Darkness, Hellboy, and the Dark Tower series. I had the absolute best time reading this. Cyrus Stone reminds me of Deadpool. If you've seen Deadpool, he has that same sort of wit and sarcasm as Deadpool does. He's just that same sense of humor. Absolutely hilarious. This made me laugh out loud so many times. Also, his sidekicks are all really good. And what's funny is he is this big, strong man, but also has this sort of childlike quality about him where he looks up to the Ninja Turtles. So there are all these Ninja Turtle references. Just really funny, action-packed, fast-paced, a really funny, fun read. Especially, it reads kind of like an action movie, and it also reads like being told the story from a friend. Cyrus Stone, Hunter of Evil. The Brain Drips Yellow by Byrne Moore. This one is so unexplainable. I'm gonna read the back. It's just so weird. Deep within the confines of his sheltered delusion, Bill Butler is a loving father and husband and a successful corporate executive. But his reality is far different. Bill is estranged from his wife, detached from his daughter, and is a constant target of ridicule at his job. And he is on a straight path to mental breakdown. Along his journey, he is introduced to a sadistic dwarf, a magician turned priest, and a suave demonic entity. But did he evoke this entity, or is it another manifestation of a deteriorating mind? The demon leads Bill into a surreal world that he refers to as the scent world, a world where he is free to purge himself of his fears and satiate his deepest desires. But as Bill spirals into madness, the lines between reality and fantasy begin to blur. This is very thought-provoking, imaginative, weird, like super weird. I could do a whole, you can see I have tabs. Anytime you see a bunch of tabs, you know that I loved it. But I could do a whole video on this and all the meaning behind it. And I feel like everybody could get something different out of it, and everybody would take away something different. So like what I got out of this, you might get something completely different, and you might see it completely differently than I did. I feel like it's another one where I could read it 5 years from now and read it a completely different way as well. So, really good. Night Film by Marisha Pessel. 24-year-old Ashley Cordova is found dead in an abandoned warehouse. Her death is ruled a suicide, but investigative journalist Scott McGrath doesn't believe it's a suicide. He thinks her father, Stanislaus Cordova, has something to do with it. Scott joins forces with two strangers, Nora and Hopper, and they take it upon themselves to try to solve the case and figure out if her father had something to do with her death. But there are pictures, there are newspaper clippings, letters, their website, web searches, things like that all throughout. It feels like you're solving the case with them, which is really cool. You have all these clues. It's captivating and intriguing. It's a very intricate, detailed, intriguing, you're kind of thrown into it. It's definitely a slower pace, and also it's one that I want to take my time with. I wanted to take my time and go through every detail, but Ashley, you learn a whole lot about Ashley, and you learn a lot about her father too. And her father is a cult horror producer, and even though he is this wildly popular producer, he manages to stay out of the spotlight. He hasn't been seen in public in 30 years. So he is fascinating, and his whole world is fascinating. And so is her. She is just this, everyone that she comes in contact with is just sort of swept up with her. I don't know how to explain it. She's just, she just has this way about her where everyone just can't help but just, I don't know how to explain it, but sort of got swept up into their world and just wanted to know as much as possible about it. So fascinating. I could go for a whole nother book. Tales from the Gas Station by Jack Townsend. I'll read you the back because this one's pretty wild too. Drunk customers, shoplifting raccoons, otherworldly visitors. As night shift clerk at the 24-hour gas station at the edge of town, Jack has pretty much seen it all. That is, until his best friend reveals the body of a local politician hidden in the trunk of a car, setting off a chain of events with apocalyptic potential. Soon, Jack finds himself entangled in a supernatural conspiracy involving monster hunters, sociopaths, doomsday cultists, and garden gnomes. Armed with nothing but his wits, sarcasm, and alarming amounts of coffee, can Jack stay alive long enough to see another morning's shift? Or will he too fall victim to the dark ancient force infecting the dreams of everyone around him? One thing's for sure, he's not getting paid enough for this. So this was hilarious. It was, I would say, comically ridiculous at times, but in the best way. And I love sort of weird comedy horror. And the wilder, the better for me. And this was freaking wild. It's known pretty early on, this isn't a spoiler or anything, because it's known pretty early on that Jack is an unreliable narrator. And that is my favorite. I love an unreliable narrator. You don't know if what he's seeing is really there or not. And you don't know, if what he's telling is really happening. But the best part is how he stays completely mellow and calm no matter what crazy shit is happening. The craziest things happening. And he is just so nonchalant about it. Yeah, whatever. It's just another Tuesday. Who cares? And it's so funny. A couple gnomes showed up right outside the back door, and I left them where I found them because one of them was holding a steak knife, and I don't need that kind of crazy in my life. He's just like, meh, whatever. I'm just going to leave it be. Who cares? Yeah. Because it's absolutely hilarious, and just the level of crazy in this book. I believe this was the very first book of 2023 that I read, and I still remember it vividly. It was still managed to be one of my favorites all year, and I still managed to remember it all year. So that says a lot. Cofer Woods by Frank Reddy. The life of a recently divorced father spins out of control after he and his best friend land a record-breaking catfish at a lake deep in the forest. The two are soon afterwards stalked by a figure from the forest who, like the double-antlered deer, two-headed birds, and giant-scale flora rumored to inhabit the area, seems a product of prolonged radiation from the nearby decommissioned nuclear testing site. As much as I read horror, it takes a lot to creep me out, but this book managed to do it, which is why it made the list. It was so creepy. The author did an amazing job at building tension and building the setting and creating this super tense, super creepy atmosphere. Definitely don't read at night and don't read near the woods. Girl in 6E by A.R. Torrey. This book follows Deanna Madden. Deanna doesn't leave her apartment because if she gets out of her apartment, she tends to get a little murdery. So she has made it to where she doesn't have to leave her apartment ever. She hasn't left her apartment in years. She gets everything delivered. She gets everything delivered to her door, food, supplies, everything that she could possibly need. She's a cam girl for work. She makes really good money. But one day she finds out that this little girl, Annie, has come up missing. And she thinks that one of her clients has something to do with it. Well, she calls the authorities. She tries to do the right thing. Nobody listens to her. Nobody believes her. So she has to leave her apartment. She ends up taking matters into her own hands to try to find Annie. I love Deanna. You wouldn't think somebody that's so homicidal would be such a sweet, empathetic person, but she is. She really tries hard not to harm other people. There are a lot of really fun, really interesting characters in this book. Deanna's very likable. It's very fast-paced, action-packed. I just loved it. It was an adventure. We're actually at my top 3. These aren't really in order because I couldn't choose a favorite. It wasn't possible because they're all so good. But these are my top 3. Clowns vs. Spiders by Jeff Strand. A group of clowns were clowns at the circus. They were the happy, fun clowns, but they get laid off because no one likes clowns anymore. Clowns are scary now, so no one likes them. Well, they're determined to stick together. So they end up having to be scary clowns at a haunted attraction. They don't want to be scary clowns, but they have no choice. So they're scary clowns now, and they're really struggling with it, but they're doing it. And there ends up being a huge spider infestation. So there are these giant, scary, killer spiders. And these clowns are now trying to save everybody from these spiders. You know that feeling how when you walk through a spider web and you feel like there are spiders crawling all over you after that, like forever? That's how it felt reading this book. But I loved it. It was so good. Hilarious and creepy at the same time. The banter, excellent. The banter between the clowns have the best names, like Jaunty. Come on. Like, Jaunty is such a great clown name. They all have their different personalities. They have their different little ways about them. Really dorky. To the point they don't cuss. They try really hard not to cuss. And they say the funniest things. It was just a really fun, really creepy read with the spiders. Just a really good time. I had the best time reading it. So I laughed hysterically through this book. I don't know how many times that I would nudge whoever was with me and say, listen to this. This is so funny. Because it was hilarious. Mayfly by C.J. Lead. I know this is on everybody's list. Maeve is a princess at Disneyland. It doesn't exactly say that, but that's basically what she is. And this is inspired by American Psycho. But she, is Disney princess by day, but she has a dark side. And her friend's brother comes to town and awakens that dark side. And all these really dark, weird, gruesome things happen. Yeah. And it's sort of like to me it's like a slow unraveling that happens. Like, it starts out kind of subtle. Like, little subtle things happen. You're like, oh, she's kind of losing it. Like, this girl is unhinged. And she's kind of coming undone a little bit. And, you know, she has her reasons. Like, she kind of explains, you're in her head the whole time. You're getting her reason for why she's doing what she's doing. And maybe it's a little out there. It's a little unreasonable, but you kind of get it. Like, you kind of understand why she's doing it. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's a little far-fetched, a little unreasonable. Maybe you don't have to take it that far, but kind of you get it. But yeah. Also, she loves Halloween, so you get Halloween references throughout. You get literary references. There's a Halloween playlist kind of sprinkled throughout. It's definitely gory. It's definitely dark. It is extreme horror. It's one of those, you know how there's some movies, like scary movies, that you watch that are really gory, and you're kind of covering your eyes, but you're kind of watching, you know, barely. Like, how far are we to take it? Like, should I cover my eyes completely? Like, can I still watch this part? It's kind of how it felt. Like, I'm like, ooh, how far are we to take this? But it is so good. I loved it. Loved every page. I will definitely be rereading it. I recommend it to everybody who loves extreme horror. Like I said, check trigger warnings if you have triggers, because all the triggers are here. So good. Full Brutal by Christopher Triana. This is another unhinged female. Follows Kim. Kim is a 16-year-old cheerleader. She has everything she could possibly want. She has popularity. She has a, you know, loving father. She has basically an apartment in her home. Like, she has everything. I guess she's bored because she has everything. She wants for nothing. So she hears talk. All of her friends are losing their virginity, and she's thinking, yeah, you know, everybody else is doing it, I should do that too, but I'm not going to lose my virginity to someone my own age. That's lame. So she sets out to seduce a teacher, and then she proceeds to ruin his life. And yeah, she's basically a nightmare. You're in her head the whole time, so, which is like a terrifying place to be. She is unapologetic, shows no empathy. She is a freaking mess. She is unhinged and just dark. But yeah, this is so well written, and it amazes me how a grown man can write a 16-year-old female as well as Christopher Triana did here. He did an excellent job. Like, it amazed me. This is so well written. I read this toward the middle of the year, and as soon as I read this, I knew this is going to be in my top of all time. And this is definitely in my top favorite books of all time. If you love the unhinged female trope, and you love extreme horror, definitely give it a try. Those were my top 10 for 2023. I'll be back next Thursday for another video. Most likely it'll be my December wrap-up. Don't hold me to that, but that's what I plan on doing. I'm still figuring this out and figuring out kind of how I want to do things, but most likely it'll be my December wrap-up. I did read 10 books in December, so that's probably what we'll go with. But if you like my content, if you want to see more videos, if you want to be notified, be sure to subscribe. See you next Thursday. Bye for now.